live.
Do you think that maybe that's why you're so confused about your sexuality?
I don't know, because this goes back to the question that we were talking about the other day, not the other day, 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
In basically, it's are you all in, or are you all out?
Yeah, you can't kind of...
Or are you half in, half out?
Yeah.
Do you want...
You can't carefully tread the waters of that environment. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You either have to commit or not.
Are you the type of person that goes to the beach and, you'll take your socks off, take your shoes off, and just walk into the water a little bit?
Also, are you the kind of person that doesn't wear thongs to the beach?
Also that, are you? I don't know.
Are you?
Yeah.
I feel like you'd wear sneakers and socks and then take them off. Is that you?
I'm a shoe person, man.
Yeah, I know you are.
I love wearing shoes. You know what it is? I like being prepared.
And you're not Australian.
Thongs are not being prepared. Because you can't run, you can't jump, can't climb.
Climb. The non-silent B in climb. Oh, God. Welcome to episode 21. Oh, you want to... Can I do this first?
Yeah, you can do that.
Welcome to episode 21 of the Uneducated Opinions, guys. We've been going for 21 weeks now. That's pretty impressive. We haven't missed an episode.
We even have an extra episode.
We do have an extra episode. Do you want to tell everyone what Uneducated Opinions is actually about?
No.
You do it better than I do.
Two guys hanging out, usually drinking... Actually, never...
Occasionally drinking a beer.
Occasionally drinking a beer. The gist of it is you go out, you have a few drinks, you play a couple rounds of pool, you start talking. Anything and everything is on the table.
Yeah.
But really, do you know what you're talking about?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Do you think maybe we should just change our logo to 2 coffee cups?
No. I like this.
Yeah, it's cool.
Whoever designed it is a fucking genius.
You're welcome. Andy designed it, guys.
I did use clip art stuff.
Yeah. That's right.
Anyway, what I was saying was, while I was using that beach analogy, it came to my head that is a very accurate representation of that, what you just brought up for some reason.
About you being uncomfortable with
just
who you
about,
are as a person?
About
it's
your
okay, I won't judge
sexuality.
you. Yeah.
If you go to the beach, you're someone who doesn't want to get all in.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna wade into your, high shin. But you never know. If you're already a little bit in, a wave might come and just take you and make you fully in, no matter what. Now you draw your own conclusions on what that means.
Is that what you're worried about?
Now I am. I wasn't before.
I feel like we've really hit a good note for you today.
Yeah.
I feel like you've learned something about yourself.
But anyway, if we're not talking about sexuality, let's talk about that half in, half out, because that's how a lot of us live our lives. We're trying to be safe.
Yes.
So we never put all our cards on the table.
Yeah.
We're always
That's a really good segue. I can't believe you turned my being a dick to you at the start of the podcast into a good segue for conversation.
Yeah, well, when you do this as long as I do it.
You get your fallacies mixed up as long as I do it. That's how long you've been doing it. Jesus. Yeah. Well, what's a good example of that in life? I think business is probably the best example.
A great
in life.
example. Uneducated Opinions is another good example. We do this every week, but we're not all into
giving our full opinion.
No, not that. Well, I'm not into that.
Yeah,
apparently.
I know you're not.
But it's more so what more could we be doing to make Uneducated Opinions the pinnacle of success? And are we doing all of those things?
No, definitely not.
And
I think you're doing a good job.
No, I just pretend I am. Or are we just, getting by on the bare minimum?
We're definitely getting by on the bare minimum. I mean, there's things that we've done that we didn't have to do, like
Yeah, got a TV.
setting up the studio, like you
This
did
took
like all the
2
artwork and
minutes.
stuff.
To set up the studio.
Yeah, I know.
And it shows in the video.
But I think there's also and this is where not putting all your cards on the table comes in, where do you want to outlay maybe the amount of money that you need to outlay in order to put all your cards on the table for something that may potentially fail. I think that's why it's a good, I guess, analogy for business in general, is it worth spending your savings that were there for you to one day buy a house to start up a business that you have come up with that idea as an entrepreneur and you want to start that, but is that worth the risk? Because if that fails, all of a sudden there's your life savings gone, there's your income source gone because you've left your job to try and focus on that business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
I think that's a big issue. But I also think the people that are successful in business are the people that were willing to take that risk. But that being said, there's also a lot of people that are money struggling because they took that risk and it didn't work out.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between like...
Calculated risk and risk?
Yeah, calculated risk, and also like making... Like if you just lay down on your sword, then like you're just an idiot.
Yeah.
Because that was a waste.
Yeah.
Like, so if you put everything on the line, but it's like stupid.
Yeah.
Like if, let's say you...
Like this podcast?
Well, yeah. Well, like if we put everything we had on the line to make this podcast
go really well,
like that's a bit silly.
Yeah.
You know, like how many podcasts are there now?
Yeah.
There's a million, but there's only 1, 2.
Uneducated Opinions and the Raw Barbell Club podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was making a joke because
Plug for
there's two.
Oh, two people?
Two uneducated opinions.
Oh, there is. No, they're not anymore.
They've changed already?
Yeah, they've changed. What were they changing to? It's uneducated.
It's uneducated,
yeah. I did say that we would give them a bit of a shout out, so I think we should.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Give It's Uneducated a listen for their podcast.
They're an American, the two guys in America podcast. They talk about, I guess,
conspiracy stuff a lot.
More politics and things than what we talk about, from what I've listened to on their episodes.
Yeah. From a high person's perspective.
Yeah. They're very nice to us though, right?
They are very nice. Yeah.
They seem like cool dudes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I like the conversation we have.
No, but yeah. Yeah, they seem like really nice guys for sure. And they are pretty funny on their podcast as well, so I would give them a listen.
Their Instagram's pretty funny. They definitely come across as conspiracy nuts.
Yeah.
On their Instagram.
I think they might be conspiracy nuts.
Yeah.
They contact us every now and then, like with or tag us in like one of their stories of a conspiracy theory, anything that's got to do with Australia, like the bushfires or anything. Like we cop a tag in.
Or like the
we should start tagging them in like Trump rallies and stuff. Ask for their opinion. I said this to you the other day. Not with everything we talk about. Some things that we talk about, it is very much just us going on a uneducated rant for the sake of going on a rant. But some things like that we talk about, especially things revolving around training and stuff, I feel like we end the podcast to be like, just remember it's an uneducated opinion, but deep down I feel like it was an educated opinion.
Yeah. I always think of this, like the tag of uneducated opinions, because I love the name when you came up with it. It was a good name. And what I think is that we use that as like a guise to cover up like
saying what you want to say,
what we want to say on the podcast.
I still feel like you more so than me for sure, but there's still like that half in, half out analogy of the beach. Like you kind of give your opinion, but I feel like both of us at times reel back a little bit on that opinion to be like, let's not give too much of that because it may upset some people.
Yeah, I don't think it's for me. It's about actually conveying my opinion in a coherent manner that people will not only
Understand, but not misinterpret.
be able to digest.
Yeah.
Because if you just spill your thoughts out
Like
in
I
a
do.
haphazard, that's when you get backlash because
Yeah.
like people can't digest it. They just like they get the front of it and
Yeah.
it's just like bang, like
Yeah.
it'll just bounce off them.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a
So
good
like
point.
I'm here because I like talking to you, obviously, but I'm also here to like actually change the world. You know?
With your uneducated
Yeah.
opinions. Yeah. That's right. Did you hear
No, I'm not that egotistical that I
Yeah.
think I'm changing the world.
What you just said was was good. I was listening to one of Rogan's podcasts the other day that he put up with Mark Normand.
I listened to that one.
Did you listen to that one?
Yeah.
And just how he was talking about the backlash that he got from talking about transgender women competing in the women's category
Yeah.
for sport, and how everyone like came back at him being like, you're transphobic and stuff like that. And I think a lot of the time he is a little bit more like me in the sense that he has, especially when he's had a few joints in the middle of the podcast, maybe he starts to spew his thoughts a little bit uncoherently, and that's why that probably happens. People cop the front of like transgender women shouldn't be able to compete in the women's division
Yeah.
of strength sports, and that's what people hear. They don't hear his then
Actual arguments.
explanation
Yeah.
or argument behind that. So they just hear, well, he's a dick, rather than maybe a well thought out opinion.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
What do I think about that? I think it depends. I think there's definitely a scale there. There needs to be a scale. It's funny. The only way that I can say that, to clarify for people that it's definitely not a transphobic thing, as for why people have this opinion, is the fact that these people like Rogan, or even myself, because I hold the same opinion as him, is that we don't have an issue with women to men, so transgender men wanting to compete in the male division. There's no, I guess, push for that to be restricted at all. If it was purely we have something against transgender people, then we would be against that side of the coin as well. We're only against, or at least need to see some sort of regulation towards the opposite, so men transitioning to women and then competing in the women's division. The argument obviously being that they've had X amount of years with higher levels of testosterone to be stronger as men, and then transitioning over to women now. We need to see some sort of research to show that how much carryover there is from when they were a man, as far as particularly strength, speed, sort of sports. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm just letting you talk.
I think
Convince me.
we need to see some more research before we can say definitively anything. Obviously, it's not overly well researched at this point. But then the other side that he also brought up was
The testosterone.
testosterone. Even if you go the other way to say women to men transitioning, how much testosterone have they had to take for that procedure to take place, and is that then going to be a benefit for them in the sport? So I think really the only way at this point that we have of doing it, I know CrossFit brought out a policy maybe a year and a half ago for that transition from men to women competing in the women's side of sport, is they need to have a certain amount of blood work leading up to them being able to compete to show their testosterone levels are at what would be considered normal for a female.
Yeah.
They can't be still elevated to a male level, otherwise we know testosterone is what makes you big and strong in a man, or at least a big part of it. So we need to see that is not an unfair advantage still. There's the other side of the coin as well that you sometimes hear where people will say it's genetics sort of thing. Like it's almost like saying, it's like what we talked about, I think we've spoke about this before, where it's unfair maybe that Usain Bolt is so gifted with maybe he's probably got, there's something like 60 different genes that are performance enhancing. He's probably got 50 of them, like because he's just a freak athlete. I guess there's that argument on that side of the coin, but that's where it gets a little bit blurred, dicey. Yeah, when you start talking about that sort of thing, because that's never been something that's been restricted. But there has also been, like that's how that
Indian runner.
Was she Indian or South African?
Oh, there's been a couple of them.
There was a South African hermaphrodite that got found out because, not found out, but shown to be, that's how they clued on to that maybe she was a hermaphrodite, was because of her testosterone levels in her blood work was skyrocketed. So we know there's norms. We know there's normal categories that men and women fall into as far as testosterone levels. It works the same as a man. That's how we know that a man's been doping with testosterone, just because his levels are way above normal. That's not to say some people are naturally higher than others and they're gifted for that reason. But it's just getting dicey when you start talking about transitioning. It's got nothing to do with transphobia.
What do you think about let's say that South African runner? They wanted to, and I don't know if she's already done it or if she decided to retire.
Give her
or whatever.
estrogen replacement therapy and stuff.
They wanted to chemically castrate her, basically, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
What do I think about that? Again, it's really, really... This is actually a more dicey topic than the transgender topic in the first place. At least I think the transgender topic, there's some sort of a line that can be drawn in the sand a little bit with testosterone levels. But now it's hard to draw that line with this because she was born a female, but
lived her entire
life as a female,
thinking that she was
and she is
a girl.
She is a girl. She is a girl. She just happens to
thinking that she's chemically a girl as well.
Yes, exactly. She just happens to have because it's internal genitalia, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so she essentially has testes or like below where her ovaries should be, where her ovaries would be. So she's still creating testosterone almost to the level of what a man is. So then is the argument that is she a woman and therefore just genetically gifted for sport, being that she has such high testosterone levels, or because all other women don't have testes and she does, is that then is she no longer allowed to compete in the female division? I really struggle with an opinion on this one because I really
just
don't
want
know.
to hear you work through it like out loud, even if you don't come away with like a thought either way.
Yeah, and this isn't me like biting my tongue on an opinion. I actually really struggle to have an opinion on this one because I just don't know what is fair. I don't know where fair is in this scale because I see it being extremely unfair, her being allowed to compete against women that don't have the same advantage, but I also see it being extremely unfair to take something away from her just because of the way she was born.
That was naturally given to
her. But then this is where it gets dicey then when you go back to the trans...
And that's why I said that the way I said it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it gets...
And we go to someone
this is why so many people tread around this topic. It's
Yeah.
so hard to... That's why I'm treading around it even.
To me, it's a travesty that you would chemically castrate someone for the pursuit of like anything. It's just, it seems so mean. It just seems so harsh.
Yeah.
She hasn't done anything wrong.
No, she hasn't.
She's just lived her best life. She's trained so hard to get to where she is.
Yeah.
And she's killing it. And to have that be like the end result.
Yeah.
Then on the other side, you take a utilitarian approach and we say the greatest good for the greatest number.
Yeah.
And like it would be the greatest good for the greatest number if we sacrifice the one.
Yes.
Right?
That's correct.
So like that's the rub of it. Like which is the right way to go?
Yeah.
Is one person's life more valuable than
This
the
is like the
sport?
conversation we had 2
Yeah.
weeks ago. Yeah.
Or is the sport more valuable than one person's life?
Mm.
This is one of the biggest fights I've ever had with Kush.
Is it?
It
Yeah.
was over the trans athletes competing, and she was like, "They're women," you know. Like, she was really adamant, and was like, "I don't even know if we can be together if you believe the things that you believe." And I was like, "I don't know what I believe. I just know that it's not as simple as what you're saying." And
No, I have an adamant opinion on that one.
well,
And that is, and my opinion is that if genetically you were born a man and you've transitioned into a woman, there needs to be, I'm not saying you can never compete as a female,
Yeah.
because you are a female, that's fine, I'm fine for that. Whatever you feel is what you are, that's fine, doesn't bother me at all. But that being said, there needs to be some sort of a guideline or some research to show that you are not now at an unfair advantage over everyone else, okay? Because, and I'm not saying this happens often, but I'm sure that at some point, if we just overarched and said, if you've transitioned, it's fine, you can compete, that's all good. I'm sure there will be someone out there, some twisted fuck out there, that decides they're going to transition so they can get a gold medal, regardless of how they do it. I'm sure there's someone out, and there's going to be people that are going to say to me, "There's no one that twisted."
Well,
but we have like, there is people out there that twisted it. It's
and
just
then
the fact.
on the other spectrum as well, you got to consider that. Look at the things that countries like Russia, China, all of them are doing to make their athletes win gold medals.
Yeah.
It might not be in the hands of the athlete.
No.
Can you imagine you have a young boy
Yeah.
growing up, let's say he's doing weightlifting,
Yeah.
he's very strong, he's doing well, you know,
Putin
Asians
steps in.
kind of androgynous anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like, government comes in and says, hey, you know, like, we're going to win a gold medal in the female category. We're going to put you on this. You're going to become a woman. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Done deal. Like, so it's not so far out of the realm of possibility that that's a scary thought as well.
Fucking oath, that's a scary thought. Yeah.
Imagine a young kid, like, being forced to do that.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. Like, there's so many, but there's so many issues in the world today, I guess, that
Sport is the smallest of them.
yeah, sport is the smallest of them, but that can be blown out to a large scale to say, if we go down this path, look at what could potentially happen. And it's very easy to sit from
where we are
and comment on it, but it's also very easy for other people who feel personally invested. See, the thing is, I don't feel personally invested in any of these topics because it doesn't personally affect me. I'm not competing in the female category. I'm not a woman competing in the female category against potentially transgender women, and I'm also not looking to transition over to a woman so that I can compete.
Yeah.
So personally, it has no effect on me in any way, shape or form. So it's very easy for me to make a non-biased, I guess, semi-non-biased anyway, because obviously everyone has their own values and opinions already. But it's very easy for people who do feel personally invested in it to allow the emotional side of things to take hold of their opinion, and then maybe be blind to the sorts of things that you just brought up then in a potential bigger picture. And it's very easy to push that away and be like, that'll never happen, but we can't be worried about that because it's affecting people now and that sort of thing. But
that's true.
We've seen history previously where things do blow out like that, and then I'm sure there's a lot of the time with history blowing out like that where people have gone, fuck, if we could go back, sort of thing, and stop that from happening. Like, yeah.
I would hate to persecute anyone for how they feel or how they are. And that was a thing that if you are born a man and you'll deep down just know in your heart that you're a woman, that's not a choice.
No.
Like, what you do with that feeling and information is a choice.
Yeah.
But like, it's not a choice. Like, that's how you feel. I mean,
Yes.
that's who you are. You are a woman.
Yeah.
I guess the only way that this could work out, I see, is if you think about sports as like classes. You got weight classes, you got age classes, and you got gender classes. What do we do when we have a problem with drugs in sport? We change the weight classes.
Yeah.
What do we do? You know, what can we do? We've just got to redefine these
Classing systems,
gender classes, make it a system that fits for everyone. So let's say, because there's calls, people are like, oh, we'll just have 3 classes. We'll have, you know, a transgender class. Like, that's not going to work. There's never going to be enough people to fill that class. So we only have 2 classes and we have to split them up. So I think if you have, like, the way you'd have to do it is pick some definitions of the 2 classes. They might not be male, female. They might be class A, class B. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
If you're over this much testosterone, you're in this class. If you're under this much testosterone, you're in this class. Or there might be some other factors, you know, like whatever it is. I'm not smart enough to come up with them, but I can only see...
That's an interesting approach though. I've never heard that before.
Only see it working is if there is like clear definitions on what these 2 classes are. I think that's the fairest thing for everybody. And you might see some smaller men in class B. You might see some larger women unfairly put in class A. But for the broad majority, and that takes into account this problem with this poor girl from Africa, South Africa. It takes into account someone like Usain Bolt that is just genetically ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because that's the other argument as well. Like with that girl that is being chemically castrated down to the likes of other women. Like, why isn't Usain Bolt chemically castrated down to the likes of just the other 4 dopers that were underneath him?
Yeah.
Like, if he's naturally above doping males, like, shouldn't he be chemically castrated?
Do you reckon Usain Bolt was doping?
I don't know. Like, I mean, if the top 5 underneath him were, like, that's some gift from God, right?
Yeah.
So, who knows? I would never say it to an athlete who's never tested positive, but then I would say it. It's an uneducated opinion. Who cares?
Yeah.
No, like, who knows?
Who knows, yeah. It's impossible to be sure without a positive test, right?
Yes, exactly. Or at least, like, until one turns up.
We need to, even with that discussion that you've just given, and I know you said, like, you're not sure where the lines need to be drawn, but that's where I think some of the research needs to come in to show, just because your testosterone levels are now at the level that puts you in that class B or whatever, that's not to say that because your testosterone levels were so high for so long, there's not some sort of carryover effect. We know that there's even a carryover effect with people who take steroids.
Is that
long term? That's why there's a massive argument after people serve their ban, should they really be allowed to come back to the sport?
Yeah, because the change in muscle nucleotide
nucleotides.
Nucleotides, and then
is lasting.
And
so we know we even know that the change in muscle nucleotides due to increased testosterone does last. We know that to be a fact. Maybe not to exact standards that we would like. Like, maybe we don't have exact numbers that we maybe would be helpful when making categorizations of people. But that being said, it's very rough ground, right? It's because the effect that has, I'm not saying it is the same, because obviously they're 2 very different issues, but the effect and the outcome on performance, that being a man for 20 years first and having that natural testosterone and then phasing that out through transition, can be likened to the same as taking steroids for 7 years and then having that carryover effect. I'm not saying the situations are the same, but I'm saying the potential end result as far as performance is concerned may be the same.
Yes. I agree. And then you also have to take into account things like bone density, changes
Yeah.
in ligament tendon strength,
Yeah.
which are generally weaker with testosterone. But like,
Mm.
we have to take everything into account.
Yeah. And there's then there's the side of the coin where is it just too much to take into account that we're never going to get a fair system? And then maybe the utilitarian approach is the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's horrible to say because the only outcome there is maybe shunning the minority group a little bit, which would suck to have to say to people who were born a man but are women and had transitioned over to say you are not allowed to compete in the
Sport you love.
sport you love. That is maybe a horrible thing to do to someone.
Yeah, you consider like us who our entire identities are wrapped up in
Sport.
sport.
Yeah, that may be a horrible thing to say to someone, and I would hate to have to do that to someone, but is that potentially the only way that we can do it at this point anyway, until maybe the transitioning process, as there's more research moving into that, maybe that gets better to the point where we can say that someone is now at the point as if they were born a female, and that is they're now at the exact same position they would be in regardless.
The problem is we're so unique
Yeah.
that every person's experience is so different.
Yeah, but it's impossible. You can't have, and we do, I know we do, we shouldn't though, we can't have grey area in sport.
Yes.
There can't be grey area, because when there's grey area, that's when there's a lot of openness to unfair advantage.
Yeah. But at the same time, it can be argued that the subjectivity within sport, the humanity that brings,
Yes.
is what makes sport great.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
when
I
there's
agree.
when there's a
I'm not saying that I necessarily think that
Yeah.
that's the only way to do it, but what I'm saying is it's very, very hard to define a line.
yeah, the only
Near
reason,
impossible to define
the
a
only
line
reason
now.
I bring that up is like this is completely off topic to what we've been talking about, but like you take into account like a referee system or something that's fallible, like the fact that that is fallible is part of sport that's interesting as well.
Yeah.
Video refs take out that, but it kind of sucks because it just means like, what's the point of having the ref there? Like,
Yeah.
there's no grey area.
What's your opinion on that? Do you think that, say, and I know you don't like it, but let's say cricket, for example. So,
I have nothing against cricket. I just think
okay.
it's boring.
okay. So in cricket, you have the LBW is a form of dismissal in
Yeah.
cricket. So leg before wicket, if the umpire deems that the ball,
So what's BBW?
not a cricket term,
Oh, okay.
maybe just a category you enjoy. LBW is leg before wicket, which is that if the umpire deems that the ball impacted the player's leg or pad without contacting the bat, and the ball would have gone on to hit the stumps,
Yeah.
as long as the impact was in line with the stumps as well, then they're out, right?
So the trajectory of the
ball
ball
is
would have been straight to the wicket
And hit the stumps.
and hit the stumps.
Yeah. So if the umpire deems that, then they're out. Is because that's the way the sport was played forever. Should we still have that? Or now that we have all these things with technology where we can track where the ball was going to go, that's why we have a review system where players can now review the decision. They only get a certain amount of reviews, like in tennis, you only get a certain amount of challenges. But should we just get rid of the umpire in that situation altogether and just get the
Like a robot.
and just get the spot on outcome every time? Or is that going away from what sport is? Like, what's your opinion?
Like, is the
Because
tradition of sport more important than
the accuracy of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, like in a sport that takes so long to play anyway, like what's a few extra seconds? Like that was my first thought.
But even in something like
2020 or whatever it
you know,
is.
but not even if we go away from cricket, even in tennis. Yeah, in tennis, I know tennis can still be a long sport to watch, but even in tennis, why can we not have some sort of if we have the ball trajectory stuff with, I can't remember the name of the technology that they use, but why do we even need linesmen? Why can't we just we definitely have the technology to do it, why can't we just have some sort of a robot system that sounds a buzzer when the ball was not inside the court upon landing? Like, why do we even need to have the human error there? Why can't it just be...
Yeah, you don't.
I think, but then that's is it the tradition of sport? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's how sport was played. How far away from the roots of sport do we want to go? Just because we have the technology available.
Well, what is the spirit of sport? It's just like one-upmanship and like, you know, being better than your opponent and doing that for people to see, cheer, and go like.
And is the controversy of bad decisions in sport half the reason why we love sport so much?
It is. It definitely, like, people will say like, nah, I hate
not
that
at all.
bit.
But how much publicity does it bring when some rugby league player put his foot on the line while scoring a try and should have been out, but he wasn't out, and they didn't take it to the video referee?
Yeah.
Like, for the next 3 weeks, you'll hear Parramatta fans bloody up in arms about that because it
But
shouldn't
why
have
is
been
it
a try.
only the Parramatta fans? Like, surely if their team was better, then they wouldn't have
Yeah,
to.
100%.
go
Yeah, if they just had a half decent team. No, any team.
Yeah.
Any team.
But
Yeah.
it does seem to be always Parramatta.
Yes, it does. Too. But I think maybe that's just where we live. Yeah, all Queensland teams. Any Queensland team will get up it for a loss. They'll find any reason why they lost. I also am not a massive NRL person at all. Like, I'm much more into union than I am into NRL, so I think a lot of the NRL is a joke anyway. But
I would see, because then you go into something like soccer, where you've got that weird thing where people like fall down and
taking
cry
a
wolf.
dive?
Yeah. And
is
like
that part of the sport? That's
is
just
that part of
horrible.
the sport?
It is, because it's been that way for so long. So maybe it's tradition of sport,
Yeah.
right? But it's horrible sportsmanship. Like, it's a horrible way to play the game, and I hate that that's in the sport. That's one of the biggest reasons why I'm not a massive fan of soccer. It's just because at that professional level, there is literally people that still take dives in every game.
That's not taking away from the amount of skill.
No, not at
and
all.
prowess that
Incredible
these guys
players,
show.
but seriously, just play the game. Like, we don't need the theatrics. Like,
Well, that's it. Is and that's what the human element brings: theatrics.
yes.
And if you take that away, there
I don't
is
think
no-
I don't think soccer would be any worse off if we took away people's ability to carry
No.
on.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, there's times where players don't even. We've seen videos on YouTube and stuff or in games where people haven't even touched the other player, and they've been like squaring off like this,
Yeah.
and they haven't even touched, and then he's gone down because it's like he's punched him in the face or something, and you're like, dude, that's horrible. Like,
Yeah.
it's so bad. That's even just unsportsmanlike conduct. That should be, if you get, like, because they will, credit to the referees in soccer, if they can see it was a blatant dive,
Yeah.
they won't give them the penalty, which is good. Like,
But you should also be sent off then, right?
you should be like, that's unsportsmanlike conduct. See you later. I know I'm just like super biased towards the sport, but watch in rugby union, if there is like a professional foul in the act of scoring, like potentially scoring a try, they will give a penalty try or a red card, which is
Yeah.
the player being sent off. Right, so if you're on the other team and my team's on your try line about to score the try, and you realise that you really need to do something to stop this try being scored, so you do something illegal like stick your hands in the ruck to get the ball away to stop us from being able to score that try at the last second. If the referee deems that you did that in the opportunity of the other team scoring a try to stop them from scoring a try, if he believes the try was definitely going to be scored, it'll be a penalty try and a yellow card, I think.
Is it worth doing that anyway? Just because, like,
A lot of the time, yeah, 100%. But if he deems that it was definitely going to be a try scored, then they get the try anyway.
Yeah.
And all you do is get your team penalised.
Yeah.
So it's stupid. But on the other side of the coin, yes, if he doesn't deem they were definitely going to score the try, you get red carded. They're down to 14 players for the rest of the match
Yeah.
because you're on the sideline. But is it worth stopping them from scoring the try? In some game situations, potentially.
Yeah, especially if it's a last
Ditch effort, yeah, for sure.
Or
Or
last-
last couple of minutes
yeah.
and you're ahead by a couple of points, yeah, 100%. And players will do that. Players are smart enough to do that.
But then you take that away if that risk is not there. Like, if you're always going to get that red card because
Yeah,
there's a camera on you,
yeah,
then it changes the game, right?
yeah.
So the problem then is that these technologies completely change the game,
Yes, it can eliminate
or
human error.
at least a huge factor of the game. And is that worth it, or is that not? We're really tackling the tough questions today.
I do believe that controversy is part of what makes sports so interesting to us as people. I think that's part of the reason why we enjoy it so much, because
Well, why you enjoy it. Some of us don't like sports.
why it's so easy to get wrapped up in a match. Like, it's so easy to get wrapped up in watching the Wallabies play against New Zealand and seeing something on the TV that the ref didn't pick up that the other team did. It's so easy to get up and be so into the match because you're yelling at the TV about something that the opposing forward did that the ref didn't see, and this is bullshit or whatever. But it's that, so would taking that aspect away from the game make the sport less interesting?
Yes.
I guess that's really the question that you're asking. Is the sport going to be less interesting? But then you've also got the traditionalists, where the same reason why, I know you probably don't even know about it, but a lot of people were so against bringing in day-night test matches in cricket. So matches that start in late afternoon and move into playing under lights. People were very against that for a long time because it's just not cricket, like that ad. It's just not cricket.
Wait, that's what that ad was about?
Yeah, all those things. Like every time there was a change in cricket.
God, that seems so dumb.
Yeah, it was a good ad though. And things like that, like the day-night test match. It's no longer traditional. Like there's still a lot of traditionalists in cricket, particularly being a fairly traditional sport, that don't like you touching the test match. Like it's a 5-day format. It's the traditional way to play the game at a professional level. So they don't like you playing with the rules in that. Just leave it how it is. It's
So
good.
like it's okay to play with the ball, but not okay to play with the lights.
Well, I didn't say there was many Australians that are traditionalists.
Okay.
David Warner certainly isn't.
Isn't it funny that I seem to be able to bring that up all the time
Yeah,
for
I know.
some reason?
You do bring it up a lot.
It's the only cricket joke I
It's a
have.
sore spot for me.
So the reason that people love sport, I can only imagine, is
I can only imagine. You love sport, just not any good ones.
not any popular ones.
Yeah. And he's a big curling fan.
I do like the curling.
And do you? Yeah, of course you do. Yeah.
The reason people like sport is because they're invested in a team or an athlete, because they love them because of their story, because of everything to do with them. And that's why like Kobe was like such a huge sore spot for so many people. Like it's
We didn't talk about that last week.
We didn't?
No.
Oh, okay. So obviously you guys know
Incredibly
because
sad.
you're people that
Have social media of any kind or TVs.
Kobe Bryant died
Yeah.
in a helicopter crash with his young 13-year-old daughter, a couple of her friends. I think 9 people died all up.
Yeah.
So like terrible tragedy. Super sad. Like if you know, and like if you've heard Kobe talk about like the reason that he even has a helicopter and stuff, it's because he wanted to spend more time with his kids.
Yeah.
So like he got that so that when he's going to when he's going to training, he can come back to take his kids to school, spend that extra 20 minutes with them.
Yeah.
Like to do that kind of thing. And when you hear those things, like it makes it even sadder that he passed that way.
Especially with one of his kids.
Especially with one of his kids, and you consider like you know like he's leaving behind his wife and he has 2 other daughters.
Yeah.
So like that family is never going to be the same, and none of the other families that were affected by this crash are ever going to be the same.
Yeah.
It had a lot of media coverage because he's such a beloved player.
Yeah.
People love him.
And he did a lot for not only that sport, but sport in general.
Exactly, and you know
he's a face that everyone knows, and for a reason.
exactly. He's a top bloke, and you know like people love him, and we were very invested in his story of becoming the greatest basketballer of all time, essentially. You know, like it's a toss-up between
Him and
the top
Jordan
3
and LeBron now.
Yeah, taken too soon. Like, but the reason I bring him up, I just wanted to say all of those things because it's like I want you guys to know my feelings on Kobe. Like, I think it's so sad.
Yeah, for sure. It's a huge loss to the sporting world because he did a lot for growing the sport of basketball.
Yeah.
Which, as someone who obviously enjoys and loves sport, it's always good to see one of the greats give back to the sport that essentially made him who he is, and then we can potentially, because of the work that he does with the sport, see another Kobe Bryant, or never going to see another Kobe Bryant, but see more players of his caliber in 20 years' time because he brought them into the sport.
Yes.
Like giving back to the community of basketball, which is pretty awesome.
For sure. And just, this is not my point at all, but there was this, I think there was an interviewer once that asked him like, oh, like, does it suck for you basically that you have 3 daughters and like you don't have a son to carry on your basketball legacy? And his daughter was like, basically like, fuck that. I'm going to be top in the WNBA.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's been like a big push to grow this WNBA as well.
Well, that's why she was with him, because they were going to like a game, and he's...
So like that's even sadder now, like when you think about that. Like he was obviously a great father and she was a great daughter. That was sad. But anyway, the reason I brought that up was because like we're invested in these characters.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Jordan, like all of those cool cats.
Yeah.
And that's our love for the sport.
He's in the player.
Is in the player, is in them overcoming obstacles. It's in them being like dominators. So if there is no injustice in sport, like there is when there's a bad call, then that's just one less obstacle that they have to face. And is the story of their life less marred by that? And is it less interesting because of it?
Yeah.
That would be my only argument for like why a lot of these video referees and stuff may be not the best idea.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe we should just go to... Do you think we'd be better off just having no challenge system and everything and get rid of it, go back to completely normal, like how it used to be then before we had the technology?
Well, I think this challenge system is a good in-between.
Yeah.
It's not so far gone that you're like... But then it also puts the referees in check because they can't be dodgy.
Yes, yeah.
Like
it's also... It's probably good to avoid rigging. Like that's a good point. I hadn't really thought of that, but it's also there. Like the whole reason it was brought in cricket, for example, like the LBW rule was to, like in cricket, it's called the howler, which was just to get rid of the howler call. Like the umpires just had an absolute brain fade and given someone out when it was like so far off out that the batsman's like, what the fuck? No, like review that, go upstairs and it's like, okay, yeah, that was way out. But now it's no longer like that. And like tennis is the same. Like maybe it was originally brought in to be like the linesman's just had a brain fade and called it in when the player at the other end's gone. Was half a foot out. What do you mean it's in? And then he can challenge it and be like, so it's just getting rid of that one really bad call. Maybe not. But now it's being used for the minute ones. And you even see every now and then, like there will be a howler call, like an absolute howler where they'll call him out LBW, and he's like, but they're out of challenges. Like they've got no challenges left, so they can't review it.
Yeah. That's a toughie because in those long games.
But I do like your opinion on rigging. I hadn't thought of that before. It does
just
take
like
that out of it.
But I didn't think about like sometimes it's not on purpose that your umpire referee is incompetent. Sometimes like it's a long game, like it's hard to
stay on top of it.
Yeah, stay on top of it if you're there for like multiple days and whatnot, and like for multiple hours in a day.
Yeah, especially in something like cricket.
So like that's. You know, like you're just basically staring at stumps and.
Well, you think it's hard for the players to stay switched on? Imagine how hard it is for the umpire.
Yeah, exactly. They're not even doing much. I mean, like I know they're doing a lot,
but they're not involved in the game happening itself. Yeah.
And a good umpire referee is definitely not emotionally involved in the game.
Yes.
Right? Like if they are, then they're making bad calls anyway.
Yeah.
Interesting. What's the time? Do we have to wrap up?
Yeah, it's probably not a bad spot, right? We didn't even get to any of the things that we were going to talk about.
No, I really enjoyed talking to you today.
That was good.
About that stuff.
That was a good one. Alrighty. Thanks for listening, guys, to episode 21 of the Uneducated Opinions. You can follow Andy at Train with Andy and me at SteveNorman250 on Instagram. You can follow the Uneducated Opinions at Uneducated Opinions. Check us out on Facebook as well. We now post all of our videos up there as well, or Andy posts all our videos up there as well. If you're watching on YouTube, then make sure you're subscribed and that you hit that little notifications bell. If you're not watching on YouTube, it'd be cool to do us a favor, go on there, check it out on YouTube as well, maybe for next week's episode. Check it out on YouTube. You can see sort of the things that actually take place while we're talking as well. Not just hearing our voice, you can see our cool studio set up with our graphic that Andy did for us on the TV at the back here.
So halfway through your conversation before, you know how we were talking about the lighting issue?
Yeah.
Some of that might be backlighting because this is too bright.
Yeah.
Reflecting back into the camera, and that could be why we're getting grainy footage as well.
Would be better off having it. We can talk about it later. So anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Check us out on YouTube, subscribe, hit that notifications bell. If you're enjoying the podcast, let your friends know about it. We'd really love for the podcast to keep growing.
Share it on like your Insta story.
Yeah, share it on your Insta story and give us a tag. We'll mention you back. We'd love for the podcast to keep growing with the minimal effort that we put into it. That'd be fantastic if it would grow without having to put any more into it. All right, thanks guys. See ya.
See ya.